So you're a collection of cells, and each of those cells has a tiny little job, and they make up like the whole, which is you, which can do really complicated things like wear Patagonia and watch a video where a guy is wearing Patagonia. It's kind of similar to a computer that's made up of a ton of little transistors. Like one of those transistors is pretty much useless in a vacuum, but if you combine enough of them, it turns into like a very coherent system. And that's whatever. That's like the ramblings of some kind of stoner, right? It doesn't really matter. What's more interesting is that at the scale of like all humanity, we're also just like little cells in a computer. And it's nice to feel when you have like a big old brain like you do and you can watch content like this, that you are somehow like a very important node in the graph, or maybe that you're not a node in the graph at all. It's nice to feel that you are a very important part of the universe that's moving things forward and has its own trajectory and stuff. But if you think about like how analogous the human race is to just a computer where all the humans are transistors, or like a animal where all the humans are cells, you start to feel pretty insignificant. Like there are so many things you can't do for the system of humanity because it's gotten so complicated. There's too many disciplines, there's too much knowledge for you to master the whole thing. And we just can't really exist without the other network of humans. It's like if you were to break off one brain cell, and then if that's what you're thinking of, I'm the one brain cell that's going to make things happen. It's like it's unlikely. You're competing against like, it would be like if one of your like bacterium that makes up your skin was like, all right, this whole ship is sinking, I'm gonna go off and form another one, and then it just like jumps off your face, and then it's like one singular bacterium. But it's just so weird to think about the fact that we're all like basically nodes in like a very complicated brain. And you could even look at like the non-human adjacent pieces of the world as similar to that. Like our farming systems, other animals that we farm and other plants that we farm, and the water that we have is kind of like the body to like a great big creature, whereas the human network is kind of like the brain. And it even like becomes analogous down to like individual function. So if you think about, like, if you want to be elitist and you want to be kind of a dick to other people, and you're like a productivity addict, like many of you watching this are, you might consider that there are some human professions that are worth more than others. Like, for instance, imagine like a guy who, I don't know, he like skateboards and smokes weed and watches movies all day, and like he doesn't really contribute much to society. I mean, maybe he works like a job at a gas station or something, right? And I'm not passing any moral judgment on any of this stuff. I'm just saying from a perspective of a lot of you probably have. This guy is inferior to, let's say, like a Google DeepMind academic scholar who reads books all day and does pure math and does the minimum amount required to satisfy like the human needs of relationships and entertainment. And like his entertainment is the improvement of the human race. So there's like two types of people. One you might consider like a strain on the system, and one you might consider like a brain node, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like some a useless neuron versus a very useful neuron for the system. And that's kind of similar to how the human brain works. Like we have a lot of logical abilities, like we can think about very high level abstract things, but then we have a lot of leftover, and I don't even want to say leftover because it's a fundamental part of being a human. We have all these like mechanisms that are derived from like our earliest lizard ancestors that are like our brains that drive us to reproduce and eat food and like be entertained. You might not consider them like super cognitively deep. But so anyway, back to the whole analogy. Hopefully I didn't lose you there. Basically, in the entirety of society, you have a bunch of those like people that are basically nodes that are like enjoyment nodes that just like absorb the world around them and are like, yippee, this is fun. And then you have like other people that are also enjoying the world around them, but they're more like, but I want to see more. I want to like push humanity forward. And it's weird how analogous the entirety of society is to like one individual brain. It's like it's all the little brains that we have all like teamed up and become like one enormous brain. It's like the sum of humanity in total. And now AI is getting even more interesting. It's like, what is that, like some kind of supplemental? You could even argue that is just another bunch of nodes that are made out of other materials that we're like, oh man, we're starting to hit the limits of how much brain power we can get just by combining like all these billions of monkey brains. Let's just start like mining materials and like constructing more nodes in the system. It's like if you're an amoeba and you're like traveling along and you find like a I don't know, another amoeba, but it's like a different kind of material amoeba, and you're like, whatever, just absorb it into this amoeba, become a bigger amoeba. And we're just like growing regardless of what the material we grow to is. We're just like spreading and taking everything over. But the other thing to consider is like, what's the point of having like such existential thoughts about anything? It's kind of like when people take a bunch of shrooms or smoke a bunch of weed or something like that, and they're like, dude, we live in a society where, you know, it doesn't really help your immediate situation. Like, as existential as you want to be, as much as you want to think, wow, we're just like one node in a massive neural network that's completely beyond anything any individual in here could do. I guess I'll just do my part knowing that it's extremely insignificant and just be okay with that. Like that's really the only conclusion you can come to. Like, what are you going to do if you realize that you're like such an insignificant lentil in the scale of humanity? Even if you're like someone who gets a ton done, even if you're like an Elon Musk character, you're still kind of like a lentil. You're just like one hyperactive node in the network of humanity. You would be nothing without the rest of the network. Like, what does that all matter? You know, what does all that existential thought matter when you could just be like advancing within society and doing normal stuff and like continuing to learn Vim and continuing to just like learn and pursue what you enjoy? Like, there's no point in just being super existential about anything. It's almost like, I thought by thinking about like the trajectory of humanity and all these big questions, like big questions about why everything matters, I'd like reach a solution that would suddenly be like, oh, that's why it all matters. And I don't know, I haven't really yet, but it's like, what's the point of thinking about such big things all the time when the only observable thing is like what you do for you and your family and friends, like what normal activities you do, like going outside and enjoying nature and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully the comments will be kind of interesting in this one. I got a lot of these ideas from a video from one of my Silicon Valley friends. Well, a fellow YouTuber, actually, Ethan Nizer, who is big on the effect library, works at Vercel, I think, and he sent me a talk from a journal called Antikythera, which is really interesting, talking about planetary intelligence. So yeah, I highly recommend them. Their YouTube channel only has about 900 subscribers, and they put out way higher quality information and explanations on things, but they're like an hour long each, and maybe you just want 10 minutes of a kid loosely summarizing that and making it more relatable. I don't know. But I'll catch you next time.